1 in 4 Americans now eats every meal alone. It feels like freedom. New research says it might be killing them. Not slowly, not over decades, in minutes. And the reason has nothing to do with loneliness, nothing to do with diet, and everything to do with one thing your body does 600 times a day that was never designed to happen without a witness. That thing is swallowing. And when it fails, the medical term is choking. It doesn't sound like much. It's the part people refuse to believe. The National Safety Council records around 5,000 choking deaths a year in the United States. In 2024, it was higher still, 5,923. That makes it the 4th leading cause of accidental death in the country, ahead of fires, ahead of drowning. And it is almost certainly undercounted because a silent choking death is so easily mistaken for a sudden heart attack that doctors gave the confusion its own name decades ago. The cafe coronary. Some of the people we record as dying of cardiac arrest at the dinner table did not. And the danger sits exactly where you feel safest. A study of choking cases in San Diego County found that 45% of them happened at home, in the most familiar room, in the chair you sit in every evening. When emergency services in London tracked close to 2,000 choking calls across a single year, the incidents clustered at 2 times of day, lunchtime and dinner time, the exact moments you are most likely to be eating by yourself. But the version of choking you picture in your head, the gasping, the loud struggle, the dramatic scene, is not how it actually kills. When food completely seals your airway, you cannot cough. You cannot speak. You cannot call out. The shouting people imagine does not happen because shouting requires moving air across the vocal cords, and there is no air moving at all. Choking is silent. The only outward signal is a person clutching at their own throat. And a signal only does anything if someone is there to see it. Worse, a partial blockage lets you keep talking, which fools both the victim and anyone nearby into thinking it is fine, right up until it very suddenly is not. Now start the clock. With the airway closed, the brain has a narrow window. 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen is enough to cause irreversible brain damage. Death often follows within 4 to 5 minutes of the blockage. In most places, an ambulance takes around 8 minutes to arrive. Put those 2 numbers side by side. The help arrives after the window has already shut. This is the point where the presence of another person stops being a comfort and becomes the entire difference between living and dying. The abdominal thrust, the move you know as the Heimlich, is built to be performed by someone standing behind you. And even with a trained rescuer, it fails somewhere between 1/5 and 1/4 of the time. You can attempt a version on yourself, driving your upper abdomen down onto the back of a chair, but you have only a few seconds of conscious effort before you pass out. And the moment you lose consciousness, alone, there is no one to take over. The chair cannot perform CPR. The empty apartment cannot dial 911. There is one more layer, and it is the one that turns a rare accident into a daily risk. Swallowing is not simple. For a fraction of a second every time you swallow, your body shuts off your breathing and folds a flap of cartilage down over your airway, threading solid food past the entrance to your lungs. It is a precise automatic handover between eating and breathing, and it can be interrupted. Speech pathologists describe the modern way we eat almost word for word. People eating while alone and distracted by screens. When your attention is on a phone or a television instead of your plate, that handover degrades. You chew less. You swallow larger pieces without noticing. You inhale at the wrong instant. The meal you are barely paying attention to is the one most likely to go wrong. That detail sounds minor. It is the line between a swallow and a funeral. The data stays abstract until it has a name. So here are two. A man named Michael Pitts went out for dinner with his wife on their wedding anniversary. He ordered a steak. He mentioned in passing that it was a little chewy. A few moments later, he began to cough. His wife told him to have a sip of water. Then his arms dropped and he fell back into his chair. Restaurant staff worked on him for around 40 minutes. Nobody had realized at first that food was lodged in his throat. By the time the obstruction was found and removed, it was too late. He died in the hospital. He had been sitting directly across the table from someone who loved him in a room full of people the entire time. Karen Hopkins, 47, was having a meal out with her daughter. 10 minutes in, her daughter noticed she had been chewing something for a long time. Then came the coughing, then a hand to the chest. Her daughter slapped her back. A stranger stepped in and performed the Heimlich twice. For a moment, it seemed to work. Karen managed a few words. I'm going. Then she collapsed. Help arrived within minutes and could not save her. Sit with what those two cases share. In both, the victim was not alone. There was a witness, a rescuer, a trained maneuver, an ambulance on the way, and the outcome was still death. Now take all of that away. Remove the witness. Remove the stranger who happened to know the Heimlich. Remove the person who made the call. What you are left with is the meal you eat at your desk, the dinner you eat in front of the television. You would think someone would always be close enough to notice. For a growing number of us, at most meals, nobody is. If this is the kind of thing you would rather know than not know, subscribe. This channel exists to find the danger hiding inside the ordinary. Step back from the table for a moment, because the most disturbing part of this is not the choking itself. It is how quietly we arranged our entire lives around eating with no one watching. Every official instruction for surviving a choking emergency was written for a world with more than one person in the room. Read them closely. They tell a bystander to deliver back blows. They tell someone to call for an ambulance while you begin first aid. The opening line of standard guidance is, do not leave them alone. The whole system of rescue assumes a them and a you. It assumes company. And we have quietly engineered the company out of the meal. The number of people living alone has climbed for decades. The desk lunch became normal. The food delivery bag on the doorstep made the solo dinner effortless. The television and then the phone became the thing we eat in front of instead of the people we used to eat across from. None of this was ever presented to you as a hazard. It was sold as convenience, as independence, as self-care. A meal for one does not come with a warning label. There is no public campaign, because choking has no villain to name, no product to blame, no company at fault. Just a habit that spread, and a piece of first aid that silently stopped applying to the way most of us now eat. A piece of food has no idea you are only having lunch. It does not know that you live alone. It does not know there is no one in the next room. It blocks the airway exactly the way it would at a crowded table, and then it waits out a clock you cannot see and cannot beat by yourself. The meal was never the danger. The danger is that we built a way of eating that assumes someone will always be there to notice. And then, one quiet evening, made sure no one was.